Okay, so you're an aerospace engineer, but like that's such a broad title. Can you like specify exactly like what an aerospace engineer does?
Uh, Aerospace cover a lot of different areas. I myself has involved flight controls.
Mm-hmm.
I have involved hydraulics, like a landing gears, airplane
Yeah.
landing gears. I have involved interior, such as kitchens, monument, and lavatories. Have you seen those lavatories when you go to an airplane? So we do those too. And also involve some military aircraft, like the refueling tankers. They can do the mid-air refuelings. So my experience has been very broad. I almost touch every portion of airplanes. But to be short, aerospace engineering is really a broad industry, cover a lot of different technologies.
So since it's so broad, would you say you would have to do like a lot of school, like a lot of education to reach the point where you're at right now?
No, not really. What I'm saying is because it's broad, a lot of people focus on one area, like electrical, software, hydraulics, mechanical. So most people actually, they pretty much focus on one specific area, so they get good at it.
Oh, okay. And what is your current job title at the engineering firm you're working at right now?
I'm the senior engineering manager.
So do you supervise all the projects that are going on, or?
Oh, yes, I do. I mean, within my responsibility, I was working on the airplane interior, like the water system used on all the Airbuses and Boeing aircraft.
So what would be your like greatest like accomplishment working in your field?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, there are quite a few, but the one I remember the most, actually, I was design engineer for race cars. This one's for Formula One racings. And there's a race team came to us. They were introducing a new technology. This is a device that shut off the fuel when the race car crash.
Yeah.
That device separate the engine from the chassis, the fuel tanks. And while they are separating, they will cut off the fuel so the car won't get burned. Still make it short, and I was asked to develop something like that, and I did it. Then it was patent. I also have a patent on it, but that's not as rewarding because there was one incident. The race car actually crashed.
Yeah.
And the drivers actually, this is on the Newman Haas race team, Indy cars. He actually sent me back the device, the broken devices, and he put a note there, says, he says, it worked, and thank you for saving my life. This is something that you really feel that you make a difference. So that's really rewarding in the engineering field, you make a difference.
Yeah. And that accomplishment is really great, but have you ever felt a time where it's been really frustrating working in your field?
Absolutely. I mean, for engineers, you're solving problems. Like, solving problems is not like a lot of problems is not like apparent. You can see it right away. If it's something simple, you don't need engineers, right?
Yeah.
We solve complex problem. Complex problem takes strategy, take tactics, take knowledge, take experience. So yes, sometimes getting very frustrating, especially when the problem is not apparent. And there are several incidents in my career that the problem is not really apparent. It takes persistence, patience, and knowledge to solve it. Sometimes it really takes a long time to solve a problem.
So someone gives you a problem to solve, right? Like when the NASCAR drivers presented you the opportunity to help them make the cars safer. How long would it take you to solve that problem or find a solution to it?
Well, it depends on depends on how complex the problem is. As a matter of fact, the problem you just mentioned, it's not that difficult. I mean, it took me probably a couple months to design something, to test it, to make sure it worked. And there are other problems in aerospace a lot more complicated, such as I was involved in the 767 tanker, the U.S. KC-46 tankers. Mm-hmm. And I was tasked to design a test facility to simulate the airplane mid-air refueling. And that is very complex.
Yeah.
You have to create aerodynamics that simulate the airplane refueling mid-air while you're on the ground. And it's dangerous because they'll have to transfer fuel from a test facility to the fuel tanks. So, and that is a lot more complex, take a lot more time, a much bigger team to solve the issues.
Yeah. And has there been anything that you feel like you wish you could do it again with like the knowledge you have now? Like any problem you've worked on in the past, like would you do that problem again knowing what you know now?
As a matter of fact, your experience, your experience, your knowledge is accumulation of your past experience your past experience. You get smarter over times. So would I do it again? I mean, I do it anytime. I really enjoy aerospace. Every time I saw the airplane flying, it amazed me because it's such a big monster. You can put it in the air,
Yes.
But to myself, I always like to explore different area, especially aerospace is such a big, broad industry, right? It's not just aerospace. It's not just airplane. I also design cruise missiles. I also designed ICBM in the past, and helicopter and other stuff. Submarines.
Mm-hmm. And since you work in like so many broad fields, do you travel a lot? Like to different countries or states or whatnot?
Occasional.
Mm-hmm.
It's but I used to do a lot of traveling when I was working on commercial. I also stepped out of aerospace for a few years. I work in the commercial industries, and I travel more. But in aerospace, typically, if you're not in sales, you travel maybe 10% of the time. You will do design review. Sometimes the customer has issues. You have to travel on site to look at the problems.
So usually you're very local to your home? You don't leave that much?
I'll say 10 to 15% of my work time I travel.
Oh, okay.
It's just on my capacity. There are other capacity that require a lot more travel. But for me, I don't travel a lot.
Okay. And for the next question, what is your work schedule like? How much time do you have off compared to like the time you're working?
Well, it's really up to you. Most of design engineers that we are professionals. Although we said we work 8 hours a day, it typically takes more than that.
Yeah.
It's your job is to get it done. Give you an example. We call AOG. That means airplane on the ground.
Yeah.
When airplane have experiencing issues, they're not making money. The airplane sit on turbine. That is not going to make any money for the airline. We call these situations AOG. and you need to solve the problem right away. So to do that, you have to work around the clock until the problem go away. So there are times that we really have to put in our time. You stay overnight, you do something that has to make the problem go away. But it's not just in aerospace; it's across all the industries.
Yeah. And if you could go back and choose a different engineering, like another engineering field, would you?
I don't know. The truth is, I don't know. I like it. I like aerospace, but engineering is such a big field. There's a lot of other things I haven't tried, so I really cannot comment that. Would I try something else? Yes, maybe I would probably try medicals, or maybe try other stuff like cars, automobiles. But in general, I like engineering.
So speaking of trying new fields, does it ever get to a point in your career where it gets too late to turn back and do something else?
Good question. Very mature question. My answer is no. If you decide to do something, it's never too late. Okay. Let me give an example. I took my MBA when I was 40 years old. That's pretty old to get to go back to school. Why? Because I feel that I don't have enough weapons, or don't have enough skill set to manage large company. So did I change field? Yes. I worked sales and marketing, and I was a general manager in other facilities. So but no, it's never too late to change field if you wanted to do it.
And another question is, from starting in high school, how oriented was your education towards your career path now?
You mean your high school education?
Or high school to any future education, like college or university? Like, how focused was it in aerospace engineering?
Well, high school education basically give you some, general educations, right?
Yes.
But the truth is, those general education, you're probably not going to use it, majority of them, when you go to college, when you graduate, you work as an engineer.
So sorry.
What those education give you is to teach you how to think.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, because when you become an engineer, become a professional, you're always thinking about how to approach an issue, how to think better than the other person. So I think those come natural from your high school education, then your college education, then you become a true professional.
Would you recommend any university or a specific type of education to further in aerospace engineering, or is it all just like general education?
Well, when you go to college, you have to pick, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if you're really passionate about aerospace, or you want to do mechanical, you want to do electrical.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to ask yourself what really make you excited, right?
Yeah.
To get into engineering field, you need to be passionate about it. So it's sustainable, because it's a long journey in the engineering profession.
Yeah. And how long have you known that you wanted to become an engineer?
The truth is, I don't know, because when I get into college, I mean, I feel engineering is cool.
Yeah.
I actually have choices. I can become a graphic designer or become an engineer, and I just choose engineer blindly. But I like airplanes. I like aerospace.
Mm-hmm.
So it's over time when you get used to it and you start liking it. But in the beginning, I really don't know what I like.
Yeah. And do you have any advice that you would give me moving on, like in life in general too?
In life, I'm not sure about I can give you advice in life, but I think I can tell you what makes a good engineer. Okay. I think it says three things will make a good engineer. Number one is you have to have that natural curiosity. In other words, you like to find out about things. You want to know why things doesn't work or how things work. And if you made a mistake, you want to know where did you make the mistake and how can I get better. You gotta have that natural curiosity to go far to become a good engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, persistence. Engineering is like I said, very frustrating. Sometimes could be very frustrating. It takes perseverance. It takes patience. It takes knowledge to solve an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Number three is probably you just need to be passionate. You have to have that passion. I like airplanes. I mean, every time still, for so many years, when I see airplane, I get excited. I say, oh, I did this, I did that. What a big monster metal made out of metal. They can fly in the air. So I find it's pretty rewarding. And you have to feel that you make a difference, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Another question is, how do you move on from a failure? Like, I know in engineering it's very common to make mistakes and to fix them, but how do you move on from that one mistake you've made?
I made a lot of mistakes, as a matter of fact. You see, engineering is working on something that is a lot of things people never done it before, right? You invent something, you're solving the issue, and we made mistakes. Me too. I mean, how do you move forward? You just have to. Let's see. How do I answer this? You have to learn from it. A good engineer has the capacity to recognize his failure. If you can recognize a failure and shortcoming, that means you have the capacity to grow, to improve yourself. So I always learn from my mistakes, so I don't have to make it. I won't make it again. But then again, how do you prevent it from failure, from mistakes? You have to understand the risk. It's very important in aerospace that you understand the risk, right? Like you design something. Before you try it, my weakest link is here. Should this happen, how do I mitigate it? How would I recover it? So ability to understand the risk is also important to minimize your failure.
Okay. And do you think there's a lot of competition in aerospace engineering? Like, do you have to worry about your job getting taken by someone else the next day? Or is it, like, pretty stable in that sense?
Any industry I myself, I have never worry about my job being taken away from anybody else. That's because over the years, I have the confidence that my skill sets is hard to match by other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, I hire a lot of engineers. A good engineer is always hard to find. So how do you build your competencies? I mean, it's like I said, the three things you need to do, right? A natural curiosity, and those are persistence and also passion. If you have those three, you will be hard to replace.
Mm-hmm. And I know you've worked a lot with other people over the years. How do you tell a good partner, someone that's gonna like help you out with your project, from someone that's not as competent to do the job with you as someone else would be?
Well, it's like playing sports, right? You know it right away. You work with them, or you play one game with them. You know, you'll find out who's a good team player, who's not. Right?
Yeah.
So like everything else, like you go into a workplace, you're gonna find somebody that easy to work with, and some people just very, very political.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
yeah.
I mean, it won't take long for you to find out.
Yeah. And is there anything that you would give advice to me? Like, should you trust other people? Like, if you assign a job to another person, should you trust that person to do the job that you assigned them?
Maybe you talk about management now. Okay. I can only tell you, I trust people by default, unless you prove otherwise. Because I interview you, I hire you. Basically, you have my trust. But as a manager, your job is to make sure the people working for you will succeed. How do you make them succeed? Number one, when you give them a task, it has to be very clear about deliverables, right? And expectations. So when they turn in their assignments, there will be no surprise.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I didn't know you want me to do this. So as a good manager, you need to make sure there's everything, all the assignments you give to somebody else, if there's no ambiguity in there. It's very clear. What do you expect from them, and when, like the due days, the quality of their assignments. So they should be very clear. There should not be any surprises.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything else that you could add on to this?
Well, no, but what do you want to do? Are you clear?
I personally,
at this point?
Well, I've been looking at many different engineering paths, and a lot of them interest me, but I don't know which one to choose or which one to stick with. So that's why I asked you if it's ever too late to change out of something. Because...
No, it's never too late. I know. I mean, a lot of times you're having trouble picking a career path.
Yeah.
But it is okay. I mean, people probably in your age is confused. You never have any exposure to engineering world. It's normal. It's common. But were you stuck in the engineering? No, you don't have to. You can be a doctor. You know, you don't like engineers. You can be a doctor. You can be an accountant. You can become a salesman. You know, you just need to follow your passion. You know, it is perfectly okay. You need to feel comfortable. I mean, no matter what field you get into, it's an experience. You got to learn from it. Even you work as an engineer, you're going to learn from the way you solving an issue, solving a problem, the way how do you handle yourself in a team. And those experiences are going to carry you to different professions. Because I changed profession. I changed my profession quite a few times. I work in the sales. I work in operations. I work in testing. So I mean, whatever experience you have in the past is going to help you.
Okay.
It's not going to be. It won't be an obstacle. So feel comfortable about yourself.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to choose the wrong career.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you for interviewing me.
No problem.
Okay.
And good luck. And I mean, anytime you have any questions, you try to choose a different career, just give me a call.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.